Hey everybody, this is Chad Warren. It is Sunday, June, I don't have my phone on, 30th, 2024, 10:17 a.m. Central Time here in Hot Springs, Arkansas, USA. How are you doing? I'm just going to show you a resource I found. At the end, I will show you my Twitter to see additional resources I've found in terms of learning astrology. This one is learnastrologyfree.com. Okay, yeah, here's the main page. So, I like this old school 90s stuff that's been updated. But there's a ton of these. So, we're right here. We are on the first one. Interactions between the birth chart and other influences. Okay, I'm going to try out my new coffee brewing method. I just used a propane $35 grill. And I have enough money right now to buy the burner. Ooh, man, that's amazing. Wow. I'll show you what that is. I just put... Did I leave that over there? No. I'm a little confused. Ah, here it is. Right? Booyaka. Scan this. To learn about certified sustainable great value coffee at Walmart. Certifiably insane coffee. Really good. So smooth. Interactions between the birth chart and other influences, Part 1 by Hank Friedman. A birth chart is an incredible tool for understanding much about a person and their life. And transits and other unfolding cycles reveal incredibly valuable information about their journey. And yet, our birth chart can be quite affected by many factors that are present in the person and their lives, like gender. There's no such thing as gender, right? Sex, culture, and more. And these life factors are impacted by the birth chart too. In this article, I will explore some of these interactions. Note, it would be naive to think that the birth chart encapsulates all of human experience and expression and is the only factor in determining how a person appears and acts. In fact, the other factors both within and outside of a person's birth chart that can alter how a person manifests, sometimes beyond recognition. It is vital for astrologers to take into account the relevance of other important features of a person and their life beside what's in their chart. Within charts, for example, planets in the 12th house are often significantly muted. A person with Leo Sun in the 12th, for example, will seldom grab center stage like a 10th house Leo will. But let's not lose sight of all the many different life factors that can and often do overshadow or at least modify chart themes. Some of the most obvious influences include gender, genetic factors, disease, psychological type, for example, enneatype, Jungian personality type, etc., maturity, and culture. Gender. Because women are fundamentally different than men, the way that women express the 4 elements in their charts and the planets can be profoundly different than how men express them. Many women with strong fire in their charts are often warm, passionate, generous, and devoted, while men may dominate, crave attention, and expound. Men in many cases find water signs challenging and might be defensive, withdrawing, and reactive, while women can embrace water more easily and be nurturing, romantic, empathetic, and vulnerable. I'm a last day of Pisces, which is a water sign. Defensive, withdrawing, and reactive certainly describes me. Both men and women have different issues with the air signs. Men can be too cerebral or detached or non-committal if they have significant air in their charts, while women can be too accommodating, image-oriented, and gossipy. And since women are so much more socially aware than men, a female Aries will rarely be as self-immersed as a male Aries often is. On the other hand, men with important points in earth signs usually embrace earth and become grounded, productive, and disciplined, while many women with major earth planets can also feel self-critical, over-responsible, and even burdened. In general, women soften rough-edged signs and planets, and men accentuate individualistic and assertive ones. Genetic factors, health, and trauma. While some astrologers can ascertain from birth charts the presence of genetic factors, including appearance, mental health, and physical stamina, the degree of specificity is often minimal, and I doubt that most astrologers can pinpoint with any degree of accuracy issues like Down syndrome and other genetic diseases or schizophrenia. And yet issues as profound as these will drastically overshadow the expression of the chart. Note, when I gave readings to schizophrenic clients, they could only identify with 1 or 2 planets in their charts. A serious illness can also overshadow the nature of a person, as indicated by their chart. I once gave a reading to a client who was terminally ill, and the vitality and exuberance that an astrologer might have expected from her chart to see in her was nowhere to be found. Both severe trauma and disease can markedly alter or even override the person's nature as indicated by the birth chart. Maturity. Decades ago, I was talking to a singles group about astrology, and a wiseacre chimed up, "Does the chart indicate that we stuck behaving the same way forever?" I don't know that makes you a wiseacre. It's a valid question. I responded, "Do you act the same on a date now as you did when you were 15? A 3-year-old will often express their moon and planets in the first quadrant more than their sun, and in a completely unbridled manner. With the exception of cultural influences, see below. An agitated teenager will certainly show their emotionality and individuality more than they will when they reach the age of 40. And most people will have tamed a great deal of their fire by the time that they're 60 years old. So both age and maturity are major factors in how a person's chart manifests in their life. Note, I am including self-work within maturity. Most people learn from experience and reflection how to work with their own nature. Culture. Some cultures are known to be emotionally warm and expressive, for example, Latino countries, and will be very comfortable touching and hugging each other, for example, expressing their fire and water signs, while other cultures, British and German, will not. And behavior is much more circumspect in Japan than in America, so don't expect a Japanese person with a lot of fire signs in their chart to behave anything like a fiery Texan. In fact, I was astonished to read many years ago that the division of functions of the 2 sides of the brain, for example, rational thought in the left and creativity and emotional expression in the right, does not apply to those raised in Japan. In other words, their brains function fundamentally differently. Different cultures will therefore bring out some of the person's planets and signs and tone down others. I wrote this article because I was struck by how differently people embody their charts depending upon so many factors outside of the horoscope itself, and therefore how important it is to get to know the person you're giving a reading to and to take into account as many of the influences upon them as possible. Fascinating. This is what I call writing. Succinct, very new information I haven't heard, easily understandable. A Tale of Two Skies by Hank Friedman. I have to figure out who Hank Friedman is here in a bit. I would have never progressed in, how in the world do you say that, Jyotish, without the phenomenal tutelage of my Vedic guru Hart Fau, to whom I am eternally grateful. The fact that there are two different zodiacs that astrologers use has caused rifts, confusion, biases, and factionalism among astrologers. Vedic and Tibetan astrologers use sidereal zodiac, while modern Western astrologers use the tropical zodiac. The two zodiacs were aligned during the Hellenistic period, and so it is impossible to know which zodiac was used by traditional Western astrologers. What does that mean that they were aligned? Basically, the two zodiacs represent two different frames of reference. The tropical zodiac, also known as the seasonal zodiac, is defined by the orbit of the sun, geocentrically, around the Earth. Geocentrism. Does that mean flat Earth? No, not necessarily. I don't think it means that. Well, if it's orbiting around the Earth, we're taught that the sun is not moving, it's that the Earth is moving around the sun. But I think geocentrism does refer to like the traditional flat Earth model, that it's the center of the universe. You know, God made Earth special. Anyway, put that aside. Aries begins, but it is certainly interesting because within the flat Earth discussion, I mean, it would have to be inherent relative to the heavenly bodies, I would think. Anyway, Aries begins when and is defined as the place in the sky where the sun crosses the equator going north, which is the first day of spring, while Cancer begins when the sun reaches its maximum northern motion, the first day of summer, June 21st, right? Yeah. As such, the tropical zodiac captures the themes of changing times. Man, even that's confusing. Is the first day of summer like Memorial Day, or is it the longest day? I would assume the longest day would be the midsummer. The tropical zodiac captures the themes of changing times, fluctuating light and dark, the ephemeral moments in life, and the impact of the seasons on human thought and behavior. The sidereal zodiac, on the other hand, is defined by the positions of the constellations in the sky. It has nothing to do with the seasons or sun's annual motion, but instead maps the planet's positions relative to the backdrop of the stars. Accordingly, the sidereal zodiac represents our place in the universe, the eternal and unchanging stellar background, and therefore fixity, fate, and influences beyond the personal or easily felt. Because the tropical zodiac reflects one's sensory experience and, in fact, life on Earth, it describes human nature, psychology, and temperament with great precision. Alternately, the sidereal zodiac indicates that which cannot be changed, each person's lot in life, on all levels: physiological, social, financial, vocational, karmic, etc. Both have methods of prediction that work. They simply operate on different levels. For example, a Western astrologer can ascertain a person's predisposition to be attracted to someone and their general compatibility, as well as when that attraction is to be likely to awaken. The Jyotishi, on the other hand, can see the relationship patterns and karma and details about the partner's character, as well as whether the timing of the connection will lead to a thriving or challenging and enduring or short-lived partnership. Both answer questions about who a person is, just in their own differing ways. The two frames of reference, two vantage points, simply offer alternate views. If a biologist and a geologist visit a mountain, each will notice, understand, and experience things that the other misses. I'm going to have to get in the car because it's hot. So I'm going to pause and do that. That's why an understanding of both zodiacs is so fruitful. They fill in each other's gaps and create a much more complete picture. Well, that seems to be something about decentralization as a natural design, so that there can't be this Tower of Babel, UN, New World Order, one world religion, one world government. Let us rejoice at the opportunities offered by both celestial languages and become more fluent in each. Man, isn't like an aspiring writer and website creator, marketer? When I say marketing, I don't mean selling you crap you don't need and psychologically manipulating you. I mean helping you be introduced to something that you do want and need, and helping you make decisions to move forward in action. Like how I read B.D. Salerno's Exploring Forensic Astrology. I already had an interest in astrology. Could tell by looking at my chart and using CoStar that definitely applies to me, and I'm sure everybody else if they would look at it. But when I heard that in the book she uses the murders of famous people like Natalie Wood, so not only can she look back and go, this is why that murder happened based on what the astrology says, but you can look forward and tell when a murder event could occur based on a person's natal chart as well as an event chart, which I think is something about people in combination in a place, something like that. So that answered the question I had with the whole conspiracy, occult, alternative media world, is how do I employ any of this? I thought it was real, but I just didn't see the likelihood that I would be able to do something with it. Now I feel really positively drawn into that. What is the right zodiac to use for astrological work? I will check at the bottom of this because it would be nice if there was just a hit right and go to the next article. The most remarkable and truly stunning truth about the various approaches to astrology, modern Western, Vedic, Hellenistic, cosmobiology, Chinese, Mayan, etc., is that they all work. The reason that each system works is actually quite simple. The approach was developed over many years with its own set of rules and principles which were borne out during its development. There is an excellent analogy that applies here: medicine. Even though each medical approach is working on the same body, acupuncture uses points and meridians and other approaches like moxibustion, cupping, that are found nowhere else. Chiropractic looks at the spine and nervous system and their influence on all other systems, also in a way that is totally unique. only homeopathy uses such extremely minimal doses of substances, even toxic ones, with great effectiveness. But in order to learn and to use a particular school of astrology, one must understand that each is a self-contained system that has little to do with any other systems, and that combining parts or approaches of one astrology with another is a recipe for disaster. Well, now hang on. You just told us earlier that it is helpful. Now that's different, I guess, because if you're... See, this is interesting. Words. Specificity. A moment ago, Mr. Friedman, Hank, yes, said that you should learn Vedic and sidereal astrology because they fill in gaps with the other. So you would have to be synthesizing when a transmission in your mind. When do I rely on this versus this tool? So those are two different tools. And then as a Pisces, I believe a big part of that is that Pisces synthesizes what it learns from the other signs into its character. In his profound paper, Dr. Andrew Foss shows clearly, for example, why using the tropical zodiac in Vedic astrology is a big mistake. Okay. Please also note that some schools of astrology, most notably Mayan and Chinese, don't use any zodiac at all. So the commonality of zodiac is referring to stars, the heavenly bodies, in their relationship with us, as above, so below, I presume. But the fact that both Western and Vedic astrologies use the same names for the signs is very confusing, dissonant, and upsetting for some people. They feel that there must be one right zodiac. But let's take a look a bit closer. The sidereal zodiac is based upon the actual constellations in the sky. Constellations, and that's where the signs got their names. That might feel like a really compelling argument, but the physical reality is not matched by the actual use of sidereal signs, even in Jyotish. As every astronomer knows, some constellations are much larger than others. For example, the constellation Virgo is about twice the width of the constellation Libra, yet Vedic astrology, like Western astrology, makes each sign equally 30 degrees wide. The tropical zodiac is defined by the 4 seasons. The sun crossing the equator going north for those in the northern hemisphere marks the beginning of the sun Aries, and a division of equally sized signs in the tropical zodiac makes sense, just like the 12 months are roughly equal in length. But as aforementioned, the tropical zodiac has nothing to do with the actual stars in the sky. I'm confused. To put it another way, different frames of reference all have value. So if you want to measure a planet's placement from the backdrop of the stars, as the ancient Vedic astrologers did, study Jyotish and use the sidereal zodiac. Okay, let's just get clear about that. Planet's placement related to constellations, the backdrop of the stars. But if you want to measure a planet's placement in accordance with the very much felt seasonal changes on the Earth, two different directions. Here's the planet related to Earth, here's the planet related to the stars. Got it. And then that's interesting because doesn't that match the Western tendency towards a materialist point of biasy? As I've mentioned many times before on this website, for example, these links, the use of the signs is quite different in each approach. To this day, even after many years of deeply studying and practicing Vedic astrology, I still completely rely upon Western astrology and its tropical zodiac with great results and incredible accuracy for determining a person's psychological makeup, compatibility with others, and for the calculation of transits and their psychological and concrete effects. And I thoroughly embrace Jyotish and its sidereal zodiac for evaluating the mundane facts about a person's life. Do they have children? How much success in their career? How many partners, etc., and spiritual and karmic themes, and how every area of life unfolds using the incredibly rich and potent predictive cycles called Vimshatari Dasas and the Iyer divisional chart methodology. I have explored all of these themes more fully in my milestone article, Ending the War Between the Astrologers, if I do say so myself, indicating why one must not invalidate systems other than one's own, nor muddy the waters irreparably by making a mishmash of different approaches. I'm trying to figure out the solution to that in my angst I have against Christianity. My research says that it is likely that the Abrahamic faiths exist for the purpose of dominating the world via these wars with Israel today, and that if there really was, for example, a Jesus Christ with the Christianity I was sent to these Baptist Assembly of God and Catholic private schools until the 8th grade, if there was a Jesus, then I think that he would be considered a weirdo New Ager by today's Christians based on, oh, here's a Roman police report about this person that appears to be Jesus that was found in the street with a naked boy who ran away. And then you look deeper into that and it seems to have something to do with some kind of alchemical process of getting like a psychedelic substance from a young person. I know that sounds all gross and horrible, and I'm not condoning anything, but I can just imagine that all of that is what we would call science and medicine and stuff should today. I mean, we're talking about biological processes and stuff. So, it wouldn't have to necessarily have this evil, pedophilic, vampiric kind of thing to it. But you can understand. So I certainly, as somebody that does, I would just make a point that judging just my whole experience of researching these topics of conspiracy and occult, that most people study these things and then are like, yeah, I don't really see any of this as any better than the atheism or Christianity that they grew up with, that everything has these problems. But me specifically, it irritates me that the Christian people I talk to, they think that they're the only people that has ever thought of a creator. So if I say Father, Creator, and Mother Nature, and that anybody has access to that, and you don't even need any of these books or traditions of paganism or any of that. You don't even have to get into that. To me, it's just, I like to take that pragmatic approach of this is all I need to know. I don't need. I mean, you know what I mean? It's like, yeah, I do want to learn all of this, but that's my specific interest. But what it should be general knowledge that everybody needs to know. Just looking at the use of the English language, while, good Lord, that's amazing. It gives us this ability to talk with people all over the world and read and write and all that. Well, there's a lot of problems that come with that too. So you don't even have to get into religions and esoteric mysticism. Just language totally affects us a lot more than we're able to use it let alone the smartphones. So, in regards to diplomacy and how, it's just hard not to want to get other people to respect a little bit of our point of view while we're tolerant and respectful of theirs. I just feel that there's so many of these Christians that just do this bandwagon thing. They're like, well, everybody's doing it, so I can question everything, but I don't know anybody questioning my religion is going to hell. This irritates me. Indicating why one must not invalidate systems other than one's own, nor muddy the waters irreparably by making a mismatch of different approaches. Sounds like chaos magic. I hope that this article helps you to understand that each astrological approach and the zodiac they've used all along are a perfect marriage and work splendidly. Okay, well that's cool, Hank, that it goes to the home page, but I think I would rather... No, I guess you're right. I'll try that. Let's do that. Okay, so then I'll get rid of that other one. Oh, good Lord. All this stuff. Teachings in Metaphysical Astrology, March of 2002. What every student of astrology should know. 1. When first learning astrology, don't rush too quickly far afield. The mastery of the basics, signs, rulerships, elements, modes, planets, and houses is essential. Avoid trying to learn more minor or esoteric factors in the first year of study. 2. Use common sense. Most people do not end up being the richest, smartest, or most talented or worst in their field. Try not to melodramatize or exaggerate the meaning of specific chart factors. 3. No absolutes. No single factor or position will either guarantee success nor doom a specific area of life to failure. Take everything in the chart to context and with other astrological, environmental, and societal factors. 4. Teach, don't discourage. Help those whose charts you are reading learn how to love themselves, how to strengthen their talents, how to work with their challenges, and how to resolve their internal differences. All parts of each person deserve to be fed. 5. Be careful with predicting. As Alan Leo pointed out almost a century ago, if you scare someone about a future cycle, you may actually cause them harm, even predispose them to have problems. Many cycles that look like they'll be intense are not. Many don't even manifest at all. Therefore, if you need to err on the side of minimizing instead of overdoing your cautionary statements. 6. Remember free will. Clients will marry those you tell them not to and make other decisions that you might not agree with. The sanctity of free will is absolute. Always respect your client's right to choose their own path. 7. Test your ideas. Over 90% of astrologers use the house system that their teacher or favorite author uses instead of testing the various house systems to see which works best for them. When a client doesn't relate to a specific interpretation, assume that they know what they're talking about and explore why it didn't work. By challenging what you read and have been taught, you can become a better, more accurate astrologer. 8. Recognize the uniqueness of every chart and every person. You will never see two charts that are exactly alike, even amongst twins. If you let the individuality and uniqueness of each chart speak to you, your readings will become a true reflection of the person. The two zodiacs. Perhaps the most perplexing thing for most astrologers and most difficult to accept is the validity of using two different zodiacs, one based on the seasons, tropical, and one based on the constellations, sidereal. I have frequently heard both Western and Vedic astrologers staunchly defend their choice of zodiacs and attempt to invalidate the other. Since I'm one of the very few astrologers who effectively works with both zodiacs and have been asked about this issue many times, I feel I must respond. I think that, like Robert Phoenix, he certainly mentions both of those. So this is 20 years ago. I think things have radically changed, and the biggest part of that is there's got to be a zillion people doing this that were not before. First of all, it is my experience that both systems, Western and Vedic, work wonderfully well. that the use of both zodiacs is validated by the accuracy of the results in both approaches. But the real question is when to use each zodiac. In my experience, the overall predominance of one element, like fire in a person's chart, shows up clearly using the tropical Western zodiac, but not using the sidereal Vedic zodiac. An example, a woman comes to me for a chart reading and has either a predominance of earth by tropical reckoning or a predominance of fire by a sidereal assessment. She presents herself as very reserved, quiet, and serious, and throughout the reading relates well to the themes of the earth signs. Does this mean tropical winds? Yes and no. I ask her if she feels a fire deep within herself that few people see. She immediately becomes animated and agrees wholeheartedly, and feels seen in a way that she usually isn't by others. In other words, both zodiacs describe different levels of reality. In addition, as I've mentioned in my Bridge of Skies article, one becomes more and more skilled at seeing the blended results of both zodiacs in a person's temperament. For temperament and psychodynamics, I find the tropical zodiac perfectly accurate and incredibly useful in guiding the person to new understandings of themselves. On the other hand, the sidereal zodiac and the Vedic approaches to the chart often also reveal to me major psychological and contextual issues, including the absence or overweening presence of a parent, abuse issues, early life traumas, and challenges to the self-esteem, and more. While I can certainly get important information on how a person has lived from their Western chart, I consistently get additional new and incredibly useful information by examining the Vedic chart too. For prediction, I use the Western outer planet transits by Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto to show what major lessons and themes are entering a person's life. I also use the Vimshatari Dasa Vedic method, however, to help me to ascertain which of the chart's major life themes will be ripening or emerging at the present time, and what areas of life will be more challenging and which more productive. Okay, let me recap. Predictions. Western outer planet transits, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, Pluto. Major lessons, themes, entering a person's life. Okay, but to see which of those themes is emerging now and what will be more challenging and more productive, he turns to Vimshatari Dasa Vedic method. Again, both systems are incredibly useful, and astrologers need to welcome each other and learn from each other instead of trying to make each other wrong. In Western astrology, the 12 signs represent living, breathing archetypes that have congruent themes, attributes, and significations. Aries is impatient, headstrong, signifies the head and initiative, etc. In Vedic astrology, the 12 signs are heaps. They use the word rashis, meaning collections of less related significations. Here, each of the signs carries the significations of its planetary ruler, that planet's significations, instead of primarily focusing on the sign's own significations. Aries carries the energies and meanings of Mars and is very strongly colored by the placement of Mars in each particular chart. I just need to X out every time. Oh, that's what I just did, isn't it? The Art of Astrology, September 99. We can liken the astrologer to an artist. Some artists make paintings that are uplifting, others create caricatures, still others create artwork that evokes pain and disillusionment. I am going to try to put this window up a bit, I guess. Turn these down. Get the vehicle. Some artists make paintings that are uplifting, others create caricatures, still others create artwork that evokes pain and disillusionment. So it is with astrological readings. A skillful and wise astrologer encourages the best in their clients, teaches clients how to successfully navigate upcoming rough waters, and shares methods of working with shadow issues in the chart. Astrology is one of the oldest and most established symbolic languages. Its symbols can be combined in a myriad of ways for unlimited purposes. This tool can be used to predict weather, earthquakes, political coups, or disease, or employed to answer a question of the moment, prescribe solutions to pressing difficulties, introduce a person to their karma or psychodynamics, or help a couple understand and accept their differences and the purpose of their relationship. In any case, it is not enough to be accurate. One must be helpful. Scaring people about a future they can't change does them no service, while scaring people about a future that isn't actually going to happen is almost criminal. Teaching people, on the other hand, how to approach their life lessons, cyclic issues, and predispositions can be a sacred and enriching task. We astrologers must never forget that the person listening to us is the most important part of any reading. Combining the lights. Astrology is about sequences and interactions. It is incredibly helpful to learn how different parts of a person's chart interact with each other. These interactions are not only caused by aspects, but simply by the presence of different energies in the same individual. The strongest energies in a chart always have to reckon with each other. That is why there are so many books that just look at the sun sign and its interaction with the moon signs. An Aries sun person will have completely different internal issues if they also have an Aries moon than if they have a Cancer moon, for example. If the sun and moon are in the same element, fire, air, earth, or water, there will be an inner congruence that will reinforce the elemental energy involved, leading to less inner conflict, but also perhaps more overdoing of the elemental pattern. If one of the lights, sun or moon, is in air and the other in fire, there is both a compatibility between the elements, which results in greater self-expression, more sociability, and inquisitive mind, but there is also the inherent opposition of these elements, which can result in ambivalence, vacillation, intensity alternating with distance, and an exaggerated need for independence. The highest use of this blend is powerful and passionate communication and thinking, combining logic and finesse with intuition and creativity. With one light in fire and the second in water, we have the most emotional combination of all. Here things are taken personally. Fear collides with impulse and courage, and extraversion with introversion. Learning detachment and objectivity becomes essential, and yet this combination gives a person perhaps the most aliveness and intimacy. What does? One in light, in fire, and the second in water. Okay? And passion of all the permutations. The highest blending combines psychic receptivity with courage and directness, and a deep ability to express caring. Those having a fire light and an earth light must learn to not let one element dominate the other. If the earth inhibits the fire, repressed creativity, energy, and emotion can explode into anger or just cause inner tension. While if the fire dominates the earth, a feeling of being out of control can develop. This is the strongest combination with a great capacity for doing, working, accomplishing, and manifesting. The lowest aspects include steamrolling over others, more common in men, or not receiving from or listening to others, while the highest side in the synthesis of groundedness and inspiration, the manifestation of dreams, and the idealistic achiever, pioneer, and leader. Air and water lights are the most receptive, indirect, fluid, and changeable. Here one may avoid confrontation and decision excessively. Distance dance between intimacy, connectedness, and detachment, disconnection, and perhaps live too much in imagination. Grounding and structure is needed. While this sounds familiar to me, in life to bring the person to earth unless either the water or air is fixed, which could provide the grounding. At their best, this pair creates the very best listeners, very creative artists and communicators, and an open mind and heart. Air and earth combinations are the least emotional, subjective, and personal of the combinations. One can become too dry here, as well as too matter-of-fact, logical. Think of the Vulcan Mr. Spock of Star Trek, incapable of relating to emotional people, perhaps even judging them as irrational, childish, or uncontrolled, and unsentimental to a fault. Their best includes an incredibly clear vision and balanced perspective, the ability to bring ideas into reality like an inventor, and a calm resiliency and receptive presence. The lights in water and earth make for the most introverted combination, tending towards conserving, retreat, inwardness, passivity, lack of communication about what is really going on inside them, and serving others without setting appropriate limits. If the earth dominates the water, there can be emotional repression, self-martyring, and unresolved feelings, while if the water dominates the earth, the person may give themselves away. The highest expression of this combination is the cosmic mother, who provides safety and protection, love and nurturance, and endless support from an overflowing fountain of strength and emotional depth. This combining of the lights could have been described even by me in many other ways, because the permutations are infinite, and the specific signs involved will certainly modify and even contradict some of what I've written. Never take any cookbook interpretation as the gospel. Realize we are dealing with infinite archetypes in these symbols, and living, growing, changing, intelligent beings, and the people we are describing. May your art grow. Well, I'm going to stop right there. I hope you have enjoyed this, and if you feel I have brought to you some value today, if you could be so kind as to buy me a coffee, I sure would appreciate it. Why is that not working? Why? I'll go here then. This is my other stuff you can find at Linktree, which should include this. Buy me a coffee. Yes, I will put this Linktree in the description. You could scroll down to buy me a coffee. I sure would appreciate it. And I would appreciate it if you would give me some constructive feedback. Do you find this valuable? Do you want to keep watching along with me in this video series as I share with my introductory learning about astrology? What would you like, different or more than what is provided here? Do you want some interaction? Yada yada yada. Love you very much. Good day.